Today here on the Raiders Report, Maxx Crosby said he wants Aaron Rodgers in Las Vegas. I'm going to tell you why this is a good idea and why that it is a bad idea. The Raiders also re-signed one player yesterday. I'll tell you who it is and how much it was for. And then if you haven't seen the latest Chiefs news, there was a blockbuster trade this morning. I'll break it all down for you. I also got to say this. I said that I would get you this video tomorrow afternoon. Jugs and I woke up bright and early this morning and we're like, we got to talk about this with the nation. So let's talk about the quote that is really making waves on social media that Maxx Crosby dropped yesterday on his podcast. I think with all the doubt and negativity around Rodgers, he is going to have a big year, and I hope it's in our town. That would be legendary. Here's the thing. When the face of your franchise, Maxx Crosby, who everybody under the sun knows wants a brand new deal, is putting a name out there in terms of a quarterback that he wants in Las Vegas with the Las Vegas Raiders, Mark Davis will take notice. Tom Brady will take notice. The nation will take notice. And with the latest going on around Rodgers, the New York Jets are going to cut him as a post-June 1st cut candidate, kind of like with the way the Raiders did a few years ago with Jimmy Garoppolo. Basically, I'm hoping the way that the Raiders do it with Gardner Minshew this offseason. The Jets are eating $49 million to cut Rodgers, $14 million in 2025, $35 million in 2026, and he's going to be 41 years old, 42 by the end of the season. The number one question that I want every single person to answer from this video, because this is important. If you don't think the people that are making the most important decisions this year for the Raiders didn't see what Maxx Crosby said, then you live underneath a rock. So give me a yes, give me a no. Do you want Rodgers to be the Raiders quarterback in 2025? When you think about this, you got to think about the plan. And it's why I wanted to be able to sit up here and walk you through both ideas of why I like the idea of Rodgers in Las Vegas and why I'm okay with the fact that Maxx Crosby said it. But then I also got to tell you why I dislike the idea and why I don't know if it is a great fit. And then at the very end of today's show, I am going to rank Aaron Rodgers with all the quarterbacks that I think are the most realistic QBs to start for the Raiders. My top 5 QBs for the Silver and Black this season is coming up here on today's show. So let's first talk about why I like the idea of Rodgers in Las Vegas. I also got to say this. Shout out to our sponsor, Panda Supps. Use code DRAFT for 25% off at pandasupps.com. The only reason why I am this freaking alive and awake is because I got some of those super nootropics and I'm ready to go. So first off is Maxx Crosby wants him. And I think a lot of people are going to sit here and go, well, Mitch, it's only Maxx Crosby. This is the Las Vegas Raiders. I promise you this. If Max is on board, that means a lot more players in that locker room are on board. That means there's a lot of coaches that have been talking about it. And most importantly, it means Mark Davis is on board. I don't think Crosby would say that and to say it with the amount of excitement that he did if he knew in the back of his mind Mark Davis wasn't on board. And Davis was on board back in 2022, but Josh McDaniels decided to sign Jimmy Garoppolo instead. So the fact that Crosby said it on his podcast and the fact that Max is looking for an extension, a long-term deal, the Raiders aren't dumb. The Raiders understand that they need to extend Max. And because of everything that happened last season, I do think that they are taking big-time notice to this Aaron Rodgers news. So here's what I heard, though. I heard Maxx Crosby say that he wants Aaron Rodgers to kill it in Las Vegas. Whether you want Rodgers in Vegas or not, I can speak on behalf of, I think, of 100% of Raiders fans here. I want 98 in silver and black for the remainder of his career. And if Rodgers makes him happy, it could be a cherry on top. But I'm not going to sit up here and say just because Maxx Crosby wants Aaron Rodgers that I want Aaron Rodgers, because that's not going to happen. Let's go to the next reason here of why I like the fact that Crosby said it. I care about the silver and black, and that's all I care about. I also like a damn good deal. And sometimes, in order to get a good deal on something, there's got to be other competition. I know that the Raiders have been linked to Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, and Russell Wilson. By adding Rodgers to the mix, it lowers the value of the other three. And I don't think that you can tell me otherwise. If Sam Darnold would have hit the open market, I think everybody would have said, Darnold's probably the top quarterback on the open market. Now it's up for discussion. And I don't think it's going to drive these QB prices up. I think, if anything, it has saturated the quarterback market for the Raiders, thus lowering the price of almost every single one of those. And Rodgers being a free agent quarterback also lowers the trade value if there are any other quarterbacks out there that might hit the trade block. Maybe a Derek Carr. Maybe somebody like a Kirk Cousins, maybe somebody like a Geno Smith. Rodgers on the open market lowers the value and is going to help save some money for the Raiders in the long run. Let's go to the next reason here. And this would be probably the only reason why I would be on board for the Raiders going out and getting Rodgers. A motivated Rodgers, I do think, is a fun thing to be able to think about. The problem is, I don't know if you're going to get it. And maybe Rodgers needs to be doubted to be great again. But everyone also said Tom Brady, when he was getting up there in age, 40-something years old, was washed, wasn't going to be able to be any good anymore. He ended up going down to Tampa Bay, winning the Super Bowl with John Spytek. You're telling me Aaron Rodgers wouldn't think that would be a little bit of an interesting thing? Because when you watch the tape, Rodgers was good and he was bad last season. Like, if you're just going to sit up here and say, oh, he threw for 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, that's not painting the entire picture. If you're also going to sit up here and say he had a QBR of 48.2, I don't think that paints the entire picture. He was good and he was bad. You can say both of those things. I don't think that Rodgers was top 8, top 7 in these two categories, good in the NFL. There was a lot of bad QB play last season, but also the completion percentage, the QBR, kind of fits where I thought Rodgers played, where I don't think Rodgers is a top 20 quarterback in the NFL anymore. I'm not afraid to say it. I really don't think that he is. Is he a top 32? Yes. Is he an upgrade over every quarterback that we have on our roster right now? Yes. So for me, I want to be able to improve, and Rodgers helps the Raiders improve. One of the other things you got to look at, the Jets have been a dumpster fire, and that's coming from a Raiders fan, you know what I mean? But like, the New York Jets at the quarterback position have been a really bad organization in terms of finding the right quarterback and finding the right fit for them. And this isn't something that is new. I mean, like, let's look at the New York Jets single season passing yards records. Single season, all time, by the New York Jets. Still held by Joe Namath. They have only one 4,000-yard passer in that entire franchise history. But think about the year Rodgers had. And it wasn't even that great of a year. I mean, it really, really wasn't. Third most passing yards all time in New York Jets history. On top of that, it's also the third most passing touchdowns in New York Jets history by a quarterback. I mean, when you consider the fact that the last 10 years, 3 Jets QBs have thrown for more than 3,000 passing yards, that's laughable. Since the year 2000, 6 New York Jets quarterbacks have thrown for at least 20 touchdown passes. I mean, I don't even think 20 touchdowns is that high of a number. It's really not. And the fact that only 6 since 2000 have been able to do it, not a very good franchise at being able to go out and find quarterbacks that can get it done. The last thing is this, of why I like the Rodgers in Vegas idea. Rodgers is never scared. And I have been saying for a long time, I want a quarterback in the huddle. When he looks at every single person in the eyes, that everybody in that huddle has the utmost confidence. The Raiders need a QB who gives them a chance to win. And I do think that Rodgers, with the right team around him, can win some football games. But he's not a nice QB. But you know what? The whole let's bring in a nice QB, it hasn't worked in Vegas. Derek Carr, nice. Aiden O'Connell, nice. Gardner Minshew, nice. Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, these are nice guys. Sometimes, as Maxx Crosby has said it, you need somebody that looks you in the face and throws a mother effer at you. That's what Rodgers is going to do. Also, you put Rodgers, Pete Carroll at a table with anybody from the AFC West, they look them dead in the eyes and they're not afraid at all. You need that type of QB to compete in the NFL, especially to win in the AFC West. So coming up here next, I'm going to tell you why I don't like the idea of Rodgers in Las Vegas and why you should be at least a little bit skeptical about this whole idea. Before we get into that, if you don't already know, I'm going to be live every single day next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I am going to be live next week. And you know what? When breaking news happens like this around the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders have just informed quarterback Gardner Minshew they will release him when the new league year begins next Wednesday, per sources. So now you're already getting even more news around that. Like, imagine if I'm live next week and that ends up happening. We're going to be sit up here, we're going to be breaking it down, but it literally just happened at the time that I am recording this video. Gardner Minshew has been released by the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to the next reason here of why I don't like Rodgers in Las Vegas. I don't know if he's going to be the best culture fit, right? The culture that the Raiders want to build with Pete Carroll, they want to do all these right things, and you want players that love football. And I know Maxx Crosby is the face, and I know Max wants Rodgers, but Rodgers was a cancer with the Jets, and I don't use that word lightly. His breakup also with the Green Bay Packers was really flipping bad. On top of that, I am somebody where I'm not going to sit up here and say that I know the person that Aaron Rodgers is. But I also find it weird at mandatory, things last offseason. He's off doing his couples retreat, or not couples retreat, his silence retreat, darkness retreat, whatever the hell you want to call it. But when your own family disowns you, I think that that is a telling sign of what type of person you are. And maybe that's me speaking out of pocket, but I think his family knows Aaron Rodgers. Let's go to the next reason here, the price tag. Anybody out there that thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to play on the Las Vegas Raiders for $1.2 million, you're lying to yourself, because Rodgers' contract isn't structured the same way that Russell Wilson's was structured last season. Based on reports, Rodgers is going to be somewhere in that $25 million per year range, and I actually think that the contract the Raiders would give Rodgers would honestly be exactly what Tom Brady got down in Tampa Bay, which was essentially 2 years, $50 million. $50 million was guaranteed to him, and then it lowered his overall salary cap hit, which maybe the salary cap hit is going to be that type of deal. You're looking at, I don't know, $15 million for Rodgers, but there's still going to be cheaper options out there. Like, Rodgers is going to be more expensive than Justin Fields, but he's going to be right around, I think, that kind of Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson range. I'll admit these Spotrac and PFF projections are a little bit higher than what I think Darnold and what Wilson are going to get on the open market, but I don't think that he's going to be cheaper than Justin Fields. I think you're looking at Sam Darnold money and then also more than Justin Fields. What about offensive fit? Because I think we're just assuming that we're going to get the young Aaron Rodgers that has got the all-time best touchdown-to-interception ratio in the National Football League. Quite frankly, one of my favorite things about Chip Kelly is how great he is at being able to utilize quarterbacks that can use their legs. I'm not saying that Kelly needs a QB that is a runner, but to at least utilize the legs is something that Kelly has done a great job of. I have also said that I believe any quarterback Chip Kelly could do work with, which is true, but Carroll also likes play action. I don't know if you saw Rodgers move last season with that Achilles, and maybe he needs another year. He didn't move the way that he used to after that Achilles injury at age 42. And then also on top of that, because I don't know if it's a better fit. I think Sam Darnold is a better fit in this offense. I think Justin Fields is a better fit in this offense. Because of me saying those things, I don't think that Rodgers gives you the most upside. The next reason here, Father Time is undefeated. Rodgers isn't going to get any younger. 41, he's about to be 42 years old this season. What if Rodgers doesn't want to be a mentor because he hasn't been the best mentor in the past? Are we sure that he's going to be a good mentor for us? We've been talking about a bridge. If Rodgers isn't a good bridge quarterback, if Rodgers isn't on board to mentor a young QB, then this whole idea doesn't make any sense, because that's what Rodgers is. He's a bridge quarterback that you're hoping you can win a Super Bowl with. If Rodgers don't want to be a bridge, then I'm sorry, then the whole Aaron Rodgers idea makes absolutely zero sense, because you need to have an option once Pete Carroll's getting ready to go out the door. What you don't want to have is a head coach in Pete Carroll and your quarterback, who, let's say at the time you were doing well with, then they both leave at the same time, and now you're back here in the same spot. You can't have that happen. The final thing is this: winning football games. All of the arguments that I hear people say of why they don't want Sam Darnold is, Mitch, Darnold can't win the big game. Darnold can't win. I mean, let's be real. Have you seen Aaron Rodgers recently? In a regular season record, his last 3 years, he's 14-21. Rodgers' playoff record since 2019, since Sam Darnold came into the NFL, is 2-3. Rodgers hasn't won a playoff game since 2020. If all of the arguments around Sam Darnold are he plays bad at the end of the season or you don't trust him to win games, Darnold did just go 14-3. Justin Fields did just have a winning record overall. So, I hear everybody loud and clear, but why are we just assuming that Rodgers is going to win when he hasn't really won since the year of 2020? So coming up here, I promised you this. I would talk about a player that the Raiders are going to resign, and then that latest Chiefs news. But we did literally just get some Gardner Minshew news. Gardner Minshew has a $3.16 million and fully guaranteed money left on a 2-year, $25 million deal that he signed with the Raiders in last March. But another Raiders regime is going another direction. And again, the Raiders are going to end up moving on from Gardner Minshew, which I'll admit, I have not seen if it's going to be a post-June 1st cut or if it's just an outright cut. That news has not been released. Once we get the update on that, I will make another YouTube video. It's going to be a short. I'll also put it out on social media at Mitchell Renz 365. So before we get into all this other stuff, I got to get the Panda Sups, and I'm telling you, you guys can probably tell I'm jacked up this morning. And I woke up feeling ready to go. Chugs and I are actually going to be hanging out with Cass Joey a little bit later on, who's definitely working out with some Panda Sups supplements. But if you need to wake up and get your day started, maybe you don't want a little bit of coffee, you want to avoid that crash, pandasups.com, use code DRAFT for 25% off. You got to try out their brand new Super Nootropic. Accomplish all of your daily tasks with our powerful nootropic focus. This formula, designed by experts, assists with helping you maximize focus and sustain energy levels all day long, all while optimizing your performance throughout your entire day. Just one scoop of focus pushes you to amplify your workload, whether you're a gamer, fitness enthusiast, or just looking to improve your daily productivity without the crash. So, I'm telling you right now, go get started. Panda Sups, I use it every single day. It helps me out trying to stay focused. The Super Nootropic, I'm telling you, it's going to lock you into whatever you are doing. So first off, what I want to do is I want to talk about the player that the Raiders re-signed. And this news came in from yesterday, which I'll be honest, anytime you see news from anybody by the name of MLF, I understand the caution. Though, when I go back and I look at most of my DMs from MLF, he's got a source connected to Sam Webb. I don't know who it is exactly, but Sam Webb and MLF talk because the stories that he's broken are all around Sam Webb and the Raiders, so it's definitely true. They re-signed him to a $1.1 million deal. I also confirmed it. It's also on Over the Cap and on Spotrac as well. So I was happy that they tendered him. This was somebody that I expected the Raiders were going to bring back, and at $1.1 million, physical corner, adds a little bit of depth, probably just going to be another practice squad type of player. So now the fact that the Raiders were able to bring back Sam Webb, they also brought back Kai Blue Kelly. That is 2 exclusive rights-free agents that the Raiders have already brought back this offseason. Now, the big news that happened today was, and it was crazy because as soon as I love the offseason, how about that? I love free agency, and I love dominoes, and when they start to fall, it goes. And there was a report this morning that the Chiefs are shopping, Joe Thuney. And then 3 minutes later, blockbuster trade, Ian Rappaport. The Bears are expected to trade for Chiefs All-Pro guard Joe Thuney as Chicago continues to load up. They ended up pulling off this trade for a 4th-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. What Chicago has done trying to build that interior offensive line in the last 2 days, trading for Jonah Jackson, trading for Joe Thuney. I would imagine Thuney's going to stay at left guard, and I think they're going to kick Jackson over to right guard, but they are building around Caleb Williams, and they are doing a lot of the things that I think smart organizations end up doing. Also, I forgot to mention this. Here are my Raiders quarterback rankings for 2025, and this is based on what I would want the Raiders to do. If it was still up to me, the number one thing I would do, I would still trade up for Cam Ward from Miami. That's what I would do if I was in the chair here for the Raiders. The next thing, though, I would rather the Raiders sign Justin Fields than Aaron Rodgers. I would rather the Raiders sign Sam Darnold than Aaron Rodgers. But if you're telling me if it's Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, I will go with Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson. So I wanted to be able to give you guys a quick update. Gardner Minshew is being released by the Las Vegas Raiders, and he is set to be released next week. Minshew is guaranteed $3.16 million of his 2025 salary. The Raiders hold $10.82 million of dead cap on his contract and may opt to split that over the next 2 seasons as a post-June 1st designation. So this is coming in. It sounds like the Raiders are going to designate Gardner Minshew as a post-June 1st cut, which is what we were expecting here on the Raiders Report.